In the name of God, amen. Please be seated. There is a meme going around Facebook. You've got to ask yourself how many times I can start a sermon that way. But the meme says that growing tomatoes is really the very best way to devote 3 months of your life to saving $2.17. Well, up until now, Michael and I had decided not to grow tomatoes at the rectory because we were concerned about attracting the bears around here. But this year, I don't know, maybe the pandemic emboldened us. But this year, we finally decided to give it a go. Inside the fence at the rectory, there are 8 large buckets filled with thriving tomato plants. We've been faithfully watering them and feeding them, tending to them for weeks now. They're loaded down with tempting but not quite ready tomatoes. I've thought of our little crop these past couple of weeks when the gospel has been consumed with parables about agriculture. Parables that for many of us probably seem at least a little bit irrelevant. Though New Jersey is the Garden State, not many of us are farmers. There are some 10,000 farms in the state of New Jersey, and the industry employs more than 62,000 people. But this is a big state. While those numbers may sound like a lot, it actually makes up just 0.5% of the entire population of this state. So while farming affects all of us, we've certainly all got to eat, I don't think we have any professional full-time farmers in our parish. But even our own little crop of backyard tomatoes, with that I can get a sense of what this householder in the parable must have been going through. To have been striving to create and to grow, and to have his efforts thwarted. And whether it's in the ground or in some other way, I think we all know what it's like to work to grow something. Perhaps a child or a pet. Maybe it's an idea that needs to grow into something more substantial. Or a business, or a ministry, or a skill. Really, what we're talking about here is the human impulse for creativity. One of those most human traits that connects us most organically to God. God's nature is to create, and it's an important part of our nature too. So we all know, or at least can imagine, the despair that the householder of the parable must have felt as the wheat that he was trying to grow was endangered by the malicious actions of an enemy. Many of us likely would be tempted, just as the workers of the field were, to just go in and rip up all the weeds once they appeared. But to do so would have endangered the entire crop. By that time, they were growing together, and to kill the invader would have meant to kill the wheat as well. Last week, we heard about the seed that was scattered among the thorns. As it grew, it was choked out. So the weeds of the field were more than an inconvenience. They were a real threat. But the only thing to do was to let it grow. To care for the crop as best he could, and to do the sorting later. This is one of those stories that can leave us in a place of judgment. If you follow through to the end, there's really nowhere else to go with it. But the mistake we can easily make is to assume that it's our place to do the judging. To jump to the erroneous conclusion that we will be given the task of sorting the weeds from the wheat, the good from the evil. That we will have that guilty pleasure of tossing the evil ones into the fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. But the story is very clear. God is the householder. We share with God in this ministry, but it is God's ministry. Our duty is to nurture growth, never judgment. Our duty is to encourage, never to destroy. The workers of the field are eager to help the householder with the destruction. But that eagerness would have done more harm than good. The same is true for us. We are called to be nurturers. We are called to share with God in the creativity and in the growth. When we catch ourselves rushing to the end of the story, to the judgment and to the punishment, then we have strayed too far from the vision God has for us. In all things, God is calling us to love. In all things, God is calling us to nurture and to encourage growth. We may not know what it's like to be farmers, but we do have that innate instinct for creativity and longing for growth. That is a gift from God. And that is always where we should aim to land. In the creativity and in the growth. Because that is where we will find God. Amen.